Well, hello everyone and welcome back to another central control tutorial. In this one, we're going to be looking at how we can use the timeline-based flex macros feature to create a one-button top-of-show sequence. But before we talk about flex macros and how to do that, let's take a look at what we're going to create. Well, hello everyone and welcome back to Newsthing. I'm Joe DeMax. First up on tonight's show, is your air fryer secretly spying on you? When we caught up a leading cybersecurity researcher, they certainly seem to think so. Let's take a look at the interview. So what did we actually watch there? Well, other than some frankly bizarre allegations about the behaviors and motivations of certain kitchen appliances, there was a lot of automation happening. The first thing we do is possibly the most important, and that is getting everything into a known good top-of-show state. So that means getting all the assets re-racked, preset the correct input, set the music bed level back to 100%, set the lights to the white preset so we can later do the fade, as well as getting the PTZ camera in the correct preset for when we want to do our zoom push in on the intro sequence. After that, it's time to actually go for it. So we start recording because no one wants to forget to start recording. We then play back the intro sequence as well as the music. After that, we just wait for a bit. Then we start the slow zoom push on the camera. And then just a little bit later, we actually fade to the camera shot. We fade the lights from white to the color effect. And then we slowly fade down the music on the intro to approximately 75%. After that, it brings in my lower third graphic. Then we wait a bit again until we bring out the lower third, effect it out, and then we fade out the music bed completely down to 0%. Now, traditionally, building a complex sequence like that would be a very time-consuming process of stacking loads of commands and trying to insert the correct delays between those commands. And then every time something higher up needed a bit of a delay, we'd then have to rework the rest of the delays, and to me that doesn't sound like much fun. That is where flex macros comes in, and it's a timeline-based macro system that makes creating these sort of sequences as easy as editing in a nonlinear editor. So that being said, let's take a look at how we actually put all that together. So I have got a central control project here. And what I've done is I'm going to remove the Flex Macros device because we're actually going to build our own. I've got the project in here with all the devices in the production. So we are using vMix as our main production system. I had a PTZ Optics camera that was my main camera for that, as well as a generic OSC device, which we're just going to use to send OSC messages to the lighting console. And I should also show you, I've got a vMix project I've built here. It's very, very simple. I've got my camera, the PTZ Optics. I have got the intro sequence. I've got the intro music. These are separated so we can have a little bit more control, so we can slowly fade that out after and whatnot. Got my lower third graphic. And then I just had a color input here that I could use as to, I cut to that at the very beginning of the re-rack just so we start on black and then we bring in the video sequence. So that is what we're going to be automating. So how do we get to flex macros? Well, it's much like anything else in central control. It's another module. So I'm going to click the add device button and I'm going to just search for flex macros. Then there it is. I'm going to double click it, or I could click OK. And we'll just add it to my project. And as always, we need to enable this, otherwise it won't do a great deal. Now I can click on this button here to access the Flex Macros user interface. So if I click this, you'll see we've got pretty much a blank screen because this is where all our macros are going to live. So I'm going to create a new macro here and we're going to call this top of show. With that done, you can see it gives me a preview here, and then I've got stop, play. I can change my speed. This is all useful when we actually have something to play back. So to start, let's click the edit button to bring up the timeline in which we can actually start to build our macro. And I think the first thing I want to do here is I want to create tracks for all the the different pieces of what we've got going on. So let's start with vMix switcher. So this is going to be actions related to switching in vMix. Then we'll do one for vMix graphics. We'll do vMix audio. Then I think I'll do PTZ Optics. And then we'll follow that up with lighting, which is where we're going to place our clips that we used to send OSC to the lighting console. So let's make a start on doing our top of show stuff. It's not the most exciting part of this process, but I would say it's certainly the most important. So I'm going to start by doing a set mix program to set the black, just the empty. Every show starts on black and it ends on black, right? So we'll start on black so we've got something to use just before we start rolling the intro and recording. So you'll see along the bottom here, I've got a tabbed interface, and these tabs represent every device I've got in the central control project. So vMix, in this case, PTZ Optics, generic OSC, and also interestingly, flex macros, which we can actually use this to play back macros from the macro we're playing, or we could even use the stop macro command, for example, to pause or stop a macro from itself. But we won't get into that right now. We're going to start with vMix. And the first thing I'd like to do here is I would like to set black on program. So I can click the search box to find the command I want, and it's going to be set mix program. And I'm going to add this, and then you'll see as soon as I drag and drop this in, that's one way to create a clip on the timeline, is just dragging and dropping the desired command into the timeline. It has mapped that, and it's added the set mix program command as a press command. And at this point, we should probably discuss what these different tabs here are. There are different ways that you can have a clip execute a command. So let's just really briefly discuss that. So press is essentially like flex macros is essentially pressing, holding a button down for the duration of that clip. And that's going to become really important when we do our push in on the PTZ, because essentially the length of that clip is going to decide how long we're essentially pushing down our zoom button for. Start is commands that will be executed on the start of a clip. So it means we could then use end to map commands at the end of the clip. So just essentially good for creating actions that different actions for the start and end of a clip on the timeline. And then linear is very interesting because it allows us to use what we'd consider to be fader commands in central control on the timeline, and kind of like how the press was for the duration of the clip. In the case of linear, the action happens, so the fade or whatever, say an audio fade, is happening over the duration of that clip on the timeline, which makes it very flexible for doing stuff like we saw in that intro sequence where it slowly fades the music down over a length of time. So anyway, that is the different types. So we've got that. I actually would like to we can use the graphics track. So what I want to do now is I'm going to add my commands to reset all my assets. And the reason I want to do this is, yes, vMix can do that as soon as it's rolled, but if we do it before, it means there's no chance of any skip or delay when we actually want the asset, because it's already kind of buffered it at the first frame, which is really important if you're using formats like MP4, which are, group of frames. But we won't get into that right now. So I'm going to find the restart input command. I will drag that here. And the input for me to restart is the news intro. And then I want to restart the music as well. Now, I don't need another clip to do this, because as well as dragging and dropping my clips to the timeline, if I've already got a clip, I can simply drag and drop it to the stack of commands, so I can have a clip do multiple things. So we will drag this here. If I click this, the parameters are now contextual to this command, and I'm gonna do intro music is what I'm gonna restart. Fantastic. And then we will do overlay off, so to just clear our graphic, make sure it's cleared. and then that would be overlay 1 because that's the channel I know I'm going to use. Okay, so let's talk about vMix audio. So we want to set the fader for the intro music bed straight back up to 100, so it's at the right level for our sequence. So let's find that. So that is set mixer level. And again, simple, drag and drop to the timeline. And then you'll see it's added a linear command, which is set mixer level. And I am going to click intro music. And then in this tab, clip settings, this is where I can do stuff like name the clip, set its color, but also I get to set the start and the end values for my clip. So I can say, you're going to start at 100%, you're going to end at 40%, or I could say conversely, you're going to start at 0% and end up at 75. So I can just play with these two values to decide what my fader move is going to look like. And then I just resize the clip, make the clip longer or shorter to decide how long it's going to take for that action to happen. So all I have to do here is I'm going to just do 100, 100. So it's going to essentially fade it from 100 to 100, fine. And then I'm going to do PTZ Optics. We need to restart that, get our camera in the right place for the top of show sequence. So I've actually stored myself a preset. So I'm just going to drag and drop this recall preset command there to preset index 1, because I know that's where I've got my kind of wide shot, which gives me plenty of room for the zoom push. Okay, and then the one thing left to concern ourselves with is lighting, and I've got that here, and I just need to send an OSC message. In my case, I know the address. I actually was clever and I wrote them down. It's go white for that first one, so I'm going to copy that into the address field, and then I'm just going to use integer value type for no reason other than the fact that's what the desk seemed to work with a value of 1. So that is it. We've pretty much got everything to set ourselves into a good top of show sequence. But the one thing I do want to do as well is just after we've done all these actions is I want to do this first, and then I want to make sure that I've got my preset my video sequence for the open in preview in vMix. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key to just make this smaller. It's the control key, so I can essentially, you'll notice everything's kind of quantized to 1 second intervals. If I hold down the control key, you'll see I can now more freely move these clips around on the timeline. That's wonderful. So we'll do vMix again, and we're going to do set mix preview, drag and drop that, and then that's going to be set to preview. We're going to use input 2. And you'll notice we do have commands, so you can use the name rather than the input number if you'd like. With a vMix project this simple, it's not really an issue for me. And again, I'm going to hold down the control key, make this smaller, and then I can simply drag and drop it to the desired place on my timeline. So I keep not used to this keyboard. Drag that over there, and there we go. I'll just have it right after this. So I actually noticed there that I had actually selected the wrong input to program rather, for this at the start of that macro. I'd done 1 when I should have used 5 for the black. So let's easily just come into here, and we can we can just select this command and change the input number parameter back up to 5. And now if I play, you'll notice the lights have already changed color because I played this once before. Hit play, there we go, we're preset. We've got our news intro on preview. The fader level is indeed at 100%. And this top of show thing is not only important for when you're in production, but it's also really helpful to have this. So because you're going to be doing a lot of to get your timings exactly right, you're going to be doing quite a little bit of trial and error. And if you've got just playing, going back to re-racking the macro and just playing it gets you into that state, it's going to make iterating through that a lot quicker for you. So we've got that done. Okay, amazing. So what we're going to do is exactly 1 second, we're actually going to start the proceedings. So I would like to add another track to handle my vMix recording. So let's call this one vMix record. And then I can come to vMix. I'm going to find my command, start recording. There it is. That's amazing. And then what I want to do now is we're going to do a cut. So we're going to do a take mix because vMix is set to automatically play the input as soon as it reaches program. So I'm going to drag this in. We'll do this in the vMix switcher track. And then I'm going to hold down the control key just so I can offset it a tiny bit, just so it happens just after the recording, just to make sure we get it in there. So I'm just going to bring down the level a bit. So now we should actually see the beginnings of this really starting to work. So press play. Sorry, I should have re-racked, but press play. There we go. We've re-racked. We've got our intro recording. Everything is going on. So I'm going to stop recording so we don't need that. Fantastic. So that is the very basics of our start of show. So I said at the beginning, we're now just going to wait a bit. And I know that my intro is around 13 seconds long, and I probably want to do my dissolve at, say, approximately this point. So I'd say that that is probably about the 11 to 12 second mark. So we're really starting at 1. So we probably want to go to around the 11 second mark to kind of actually kick this off. So I'm going to use the zoom slider here to zoom out. And let's go and find ourselves the auto mix command. And we will just drag this in here. There you go. It's added, I think maybe 11 seconds is going to be more suitable. And the other thing we actually do need to do before that is we need to make sure that the camera is in preview. Again, set mix preview. And we've got real estate here. We can do this wherever we want as long as it's before the transition. Drag that in. That is input mix 1, input 1. That is all correct. That's absolutely fine. And then again, let's watch. Roll intro, set mix preview. There I am. Hello. And then we'll get to about 10 seconds in, see what we feel like about this. Yeah, pretty good. I would actually say we should probably let it sit on that title card for just a bit longer. I think that would feel better. So we will drag this over, come over here, and let's say we'll bring it to 12 seconds. I think that feels good. Now, PTZ can resume. So let's do that. We need to do that. And this really is where Flex Macros comes into its own, because it makes it so easy to do these kind of tasks because we're now visualizing this as a timeline. So I want to do the zoom in just before the auto mix. And I want to give it just enough time so the camera's kind of reached its, accelerated to the desired speed. And just to make sure we're not getting any like jumping when it starts the zoom. So we're going to just give it enough time to get to where we want it to be. So let's find the zoom command. We're going to do zoom in, and I'm going to drag this to my PTZ Optics track. There it is. And now I'm going to use the control key to just go off grid a bit. So just start, I'd say about there looks good to me. And I'm going to drag this out. And like I said at the beginning, with the press type, it's essentially that we're holding down a virtual button for the length of the clip. The length of the clip is how long we're pressing that zoom button down for. So I can just, again, just keep re-racking and adjust this to taste. So that is superb. While we're here, let's do the audio. So I'm going to go back to vMix. We'll do set mixer level. Set mixer level, and then I think this can kind of land at the exact same point as our auto, and then but for fun we'll drag it out so the fade happens and then the audio fade happens. And then I'm going to go to select this clip, go to clip settings. We're going to start at 100 because we know that's where we are, and then we'll bring this down to I think 70. Fantastic. And then the lighting, as soon as just a hair of a second after we've reached we've done the auto, that's when I'd like to do our nice fade into the purple preset that we set up. So let's do that. Let's go Flex Macros. sorry, no, we'll go to generic OSC because that's how we're controlling the lighting console. We'll do set OSC message, and then we'll drag that clip just there. And then again, I can go to my handy notepad document, which has, okay, the address is go news for that queue on the console. Don't do / integer, and then we'll do 1, and then that is that. We've got that. And then let's do our lower third graphic. So to do that, I'm going to come back to vMix, and then it's going to be set overlay source to send the GT title to the keyer. So drag and drop that set overlay source, and we've got a graphics track that we made here. And then I'm going to do input title 1 element blue.gt, and that comes in. Maybe we want that to happen at 13 seconds just so we know the fades happened. Actually, no, let's sit for a bit. I'll get to say, hello, my name is such and such, and then it can come in. Fantastic. And now I think the only two pieces I think we need to do now are to let the music play for a bit, and then we will fade it from 70% all the way back down to 0. So let's go vMix, set mixer level. We won't do that. I'll show you something else. So if you select a clip and you hold down the Option key, so the Alt key, using a Mac for too long, I can actually duplicate the clip, and it creates a copy for me with all the same commands attached. So I've done that, and I've got this copy here, and I'm going to have that. So we finished fading to that about 14. So let's say at maybe approximately 20 seconds, we're going to completely fade the music bed down. And this time we'll make the fade a little bit tighter, a little bit quicker. So we'll just drag our clip down to say 1.5 seconds. Feels good to me. And again, we come to clip settings, and then we'll do start value at 70 and end value at 0. I think we're good. The only thing I wanted to do, I think, was remove my lower third graphic. So let's now find that, which would be overlay out in vMix. And I'll drag this onto the graphics track. And we'll do that just before the music goes away. Overlay 1, that all looks correct. I think we've got a sequence here. So let's I can click this fit button so I can see everything. And now I'm going to double click stop to go back to the beginning, and let's see how this plays out. So I'm going to hit play. Here we go, rolling the intro, set mix preview, there I am. Let me just show you the audio fader is there, it's up there. And then we're about to fade to me. There goes the lighting. We've done the push on the PTZ. Overlay comes in. And there we go. There we have it. We have the whole sequence working. Apart from, I notice that the audio didn't do anything. So we need to do some troubleshooting. And a great way to make our lives just a little bit easier while we do that is I can actually mute the rest of these tracks using this little mute button here, so I can just work on the track that is causing me trouble. So what happened there? There'll be a reason. I don't think we ever started the play command on the music bed. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the play input command, and as soon as we do the take here, that sounds like a good place to actually start playing the music, because if we don't play it, it's not, there's no reason for it to autoplay in vMix because I didn't include it as a layer, so that makes sense. Now the fader move didn't happen. Why? We'll find out together. Because, friends, I selected it to be the Magewell Pro convert that it was fading, and indeed not the intro music track, so that would be why that didn't work. Click Use Intro. So we've selected the right channels for both. Now I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller, fit it all. So now what we can do is we can actually hit the play button with the rest of the tracks muted, so we can just kind of get a grasp for, we don't have to be distracted by everything else that's going on in our sequence. We can just see what's going on in audio world. So let's hit play. There it goes. I can hear the music playing. quicker you can do it. And then we're going to start the set mix. There we go, set mix level down to about 75%. So I said at the start of this, the goal is to have a 1-button top of show sequence. And what better button to use for that than this X-keys big button with a custom keycap made by Amber. Thank you, Amber. So I'll get this plugged in to my XK12. There it goes. And I'm going to come into central control and just add that as a device. So what XK, it is the XK12 switch interface. Add this in, click OK, enable it. Now you'll see the controls light is flashing. So all we need to do to fire off the macro from this is click controls, and it's going to be switch 2 in this case. And I will select flex macros, and then I can do either play macro, or I can say play the macro at a certain speed. As is 100% because we timed it all out to the opening sequence. Add that command. And now what do you say we take one final look at our sequence and see how it all goes together. So let's pull this up. I'll fit it to the screen, and then I'm going to very simply press the button and we'll watch this all play out. And keep an eye on stuff like the preview program in vMix, the lighting behind me, as well as the faders in the mixer in vMix. So here goes nothing. So there is the intro music playing. You see we start recording, preset my camera, the lights have gone to their initial white state, and here goes the push in. There it goes, auto to me, hello, welcome to the show. You'll see the music faded down. Here's my graphic, and then it will remove it, and now you'll see there it fades down the music to 0%. So that's it, we've built our 1-button top of show sequence. Flex Macros is available in the Pro and Elite versions of Central Control, as well as the $14.99 subscription version, Neo, and that's a monthly subscription version that has all the same features as Elite. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun putting it all together, and we'd love to hear from you what kind of tutorial videos you want to see on the channel. Maybe there's something in Central Control that you don't quite know how to do. Well, leave a comment. And the one that has the best idea, I will send you one of these new Central Control hoodies, as well as a free copy of Central Control Elite. I'll see you next time.